Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 147 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekly edition and we're going to talk about clamps today. You can never have too many of these, so if you want to see which direction this goes, all you need to do is stay tuned. Well, everybody knows you can never have too many clamps. But what do you do with them when you're finished your glue up? Well, in the early days of this shop, I had a lumber cart that I just pushed them all underneath because I had absolutely no place to store them. However, I did eventually fabricate this storage system, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So when you're done with your gluing, where do your clamps go? Well, okay, I fabricated this a few years ago and I actually wrote it up in the Saskatchewan Woodworkers Guild newsletter. So I'm just going to talk about it a little bit and show you how I did this, and maybe you can take some ideas for it and do it on your own. A lot of shops that I see haven't really dealt with clamp storage terribly well, and often the clamp storage is limited to just a few clamps. And I bought lots of clamps and I need them all now when I teach, so it's nice to have them. But anyway, the more you have to store, the bigger the problems get. So let me walk you through how I dealt with some of these issues. First of all, the size of the rack. Well, that was kind of predetermined by where I put it. I wanted it on this wall. I had room for it here. And you can see with the overlap here and this opening, it kind of fits in there. It's about the maximum. Plus there's a plug-in right here too. So I couldn't really go any further than that. And we've got trim here that I wanted to stay away from as well. So overall, I believe this thing is about 44 inches, but, oh, I'm wrong, 41 and a half inches overall, okay? The total height from the top of the shelf to here, that I know that's 4 feet. And the depth is 6 inches. And on the inside, it's 5 3/4. So that means I've got a 3/4 inch back on here as well. And that 3/4 inch back basically holds a lot of the weight from the clamps. In fact, I would say all of it. So that's the physical size of it. The shelf on top was a bit of an afterthought because I have way too many spring clamps. Way too many. I need to get rid of some. 3 pails in a box. That's a bit overzealous. But anyway, that's what I worked out. So I put a shelf on here. It is exactly 14 inches wide, and it supports all that really nicely. And the final measurement I'm going to give you here is it's about 38 inches off the floor. And the reason I wanted that is because the plan has been to store our property's generator here, so it fits underneath here. Now, I'm really having second thoughts about having this in here, and I'm looking at ways to move it out where it would be faster to hook up and easier to use. So that may not be a fixture here in the near future. So anyway, what I did is I made, and I'm going to I took the liberty of emptying one of these, and I want to show you how I made this. Now, these things are exactly a foot long and 5.5 inches deep, and then for about 5 1/4 inches to the end, it's 2 inches there, and then I cut this angle. Now, because I've added some clamps since I built this, and that is a bit of a problem, I I might maybe make a couple that are at 14 or 15 inches so that I can get all my clamps of one type on one set of hooks. But maybe better yet would be to go through my clamps, and there's some that aren't working properly, and either fix them and add on to here or get rid of them and leave this the way it is. So what I did, I'm hoping you can see this, is there's a 3/8 plywood strip here that's 3 inches wide, and then supporting it is a piece of pine that's also about 3 inches wide, maybe not quite. And the way this works is I put these metal angle brackets on the back, and they're 3/8 in between there. And just to show you this, now this is a piece of 3/8 OSB, which I didn't use here. I wanted better strength. But they just slide over like that. And then the 3/4 or the 3/8 pine underneath that acts as a support as well. So the other thing that I did is I added a piece that's 5.5 inches tall, but it's 1 inch by 3/4 inch, and that's designed to keep this stable, to not let it flex all over the place. They do a little bit, but this has worked fairly well. And they're tight enough on here, so you set your distance between, you push them on, and you hang your clamp. That's the way it works. I was a little leery about this when I first did it. I was questioning whether this 3/8 plywood here would be strong enough for the clamp load. It has worked exceedingly well. And the reason I did it is because, yeah, I could have put French cleats or something like that, but I didn't want the French cleats because then if I accidentally bumped something and it came off and I had those problems, these stay in place. You are not going to inadvertently bump this and lose a whole section of clamps. They will not fall. So this worked really good. Oh yeah, they're two, I think these are inch and probably 1 inch, or number 8x1 Robertson screws. And like I said, I've been very happy with this. Give you a bit of a look at this. And then for spacing, see, they butt up against each other there. This one's a little bigger. I made some that were a little bigger because for these clamps, which ones? For my little 6-inch here, I took a few of them down. They needed a little bit more space here than these. So the others basically, I should measure one of those for you just so you know. Here, let's take a quick measurement on one of these. Okay, these are 7 inches at the back, 2 inches at the front, and about 2 inches back here, it's flat, and then it angles up. But these are necessary for the 6-inch version of these clamps. Otherwise, they just don't slide on far enough. So when you're building your own setup, you need to make sure you know what clamps you have and how many of each you have so that you can set your holders up accordingly. So I'm just going to set this back in here and push this down. There we go. So the other thing that's a little bit of a problem here with these clamps, because they're really big on the bottom, I decided that I would put all my clamps in their open position when I stored them. Okay, this one needs to have a set screw installed because it's missing. Okay, and so for example, my longer pipe clamps, these are 4-inch pipes, and I always have them wide open, and that works out really well. They'll even hang, sorry, got my back to you guys, they'll even hang nicely on one hook. And even the 6-foot pipes There's no problem. There's good support here. It handles the weight just fine. There are no issues. So the the holding strip in the back is screwed onto that 3/4 inch pine backer, and I've screwed it on in such a way that I can still get these just about anywhere along the top row. So most of the support is on the bottom, and the pine piece below adds a little extra support. So that's the way I've done this, and it works pretty good. It has problems. One of the major problems is I've added more clamps and added one particular type of clamps that I didn't have before, which makes this a problem. For example, I didn't have any 2-foot clamps like this. Well, now I have a few of them, but I don't have a dedicated place for them. So I hang them with the 2-foot, pardon me, these style clamps. I hang them together, which is a bit of a pain, but my students are usually using the pipe clamps and the 6-inch, these 6-inch of those clamps. So that is basically what I need to show you. What I am going to do though, oh yeah, I talked about the shelf already. The finish on this is wipe-on poly. I gave it several coats of wipe-on poly before I put clamps on it, and this is a number of years old now, and it works really good. One of the best features about making something like this is once you have a place for things in your shop, you put them away. Even me, notoriously bad at putting things away, when I have a clamp rack like this and a place to put them, I open them up and I slide them on, and away we go. My clamps have never been more organized than they are now. So this is an excellent project for you to undertake. Whether you decide to do it this way or whatever you decide, I think it depends. I think it depends on how your clamps are being used. Like, I have students using my clamps, so I need more of them, but I don't have a bigger area to store them. So I need to come out to get storage. Whereas if you have, 4 pipe clamps and that's all you need, and a few of these little, and I forget what these clamps are called, but anyway, a couple of these, then you don't need something quite this elaborate. But if you have quite a few clamps and you'd like to store them neatly, this is just one way of doing it. So what I think I'm going to do is, we've been looking at the top of this during the whole session, so I'm just going to step behind the camera and tilt you to the bottom so that you can kind of see what's going on down there. Okay, here we go. Notice, and you can't really see it because that piece of plywood's in the way. Let me get that. I had decided that a 6-foot clamp was the longest clamp I was going to get, and you can see that they're about 5 inches, 6 inches off the floor, which is perfect. And yeah, I've got some doubles of different clamps hanging on the same hook as another clamp, which isn't good. But anyway, that is my clamp rack. Well, there you have it. I've got my clamps neatly organized, and I built this a number of years ago. And if you're in the Saskatchewan Woodworkers Guild, you'd have access to those shavings columns that I wrote. And even for those of you that aren't, keep watching the Saskatchewan Woodworkers Guild website, and eventually the plan is to put all my old columns on the website, so that then there would be a bit more of an explanation about how this all works. I'm not going to develop a step-by-step plan for this, because the idea of this is not for you to necessarily copy me. This is sharing ideas. So this is what I did. Do you see one thing about it that you like? but there's probably things you don't like. So how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to fix them? And that's where the creativity comes into play as a woodworker. You need to figure out what you need in your shop. So anyway, with that in mind, I hope you didn't mind taking a look at my clamp rack. I'm actually quite proud of it. It works really well. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'd be eager to interchange ideas with you through the comments. And yeah, that pretty much finishes off this video. So remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the weekend edition.